I'm waiting for people to filter in. I got a green. I got green. Everything's green. Got a connection. Um, got one viewer. Okay, let's see if people can. Oh, no, I'm already getting errors. God damn it! I'm already getting connection errors.
They really don't want us to talk about the
Okay,
Sheikah.
now it says I have an excellent connection and everything's green. Okay.
Okay,
We're probably
we're not.
like we're probably like 30 seconds ahead of the chat again though. But anyway,
Yeah.
let's let some people filter in and then we'll do our sound test again for the third time.
Actually, curse stream.
Actually, curse stream. All right. So, can everyone in the chat hear us? I really apologize for the incredibly unprofessional. Like I'm fine being sloppy and unprofessional, but this is a whole new level. I'm embodying. The stream dies like every 10-20 minutes. I have to freaking restart the whole stream because it won't rebuffer. I'm still not even sure people can hear us. No one's replied it. Can you people in the chat hear us before we begin again? Okay, it's
Most
clear. It's
people
clear for
haven't.
everyone.
Most people haven't joined yet, so there's still only a few viewers.
All right, I'll wait till. How many viewers were we at? I think we're at like 20 or 30.
Yeah, but around 30.
I'll wait till like 20 viewers return. If they go away, I don't blame them. Yeah, someone said the Sheikah are disrupting. Yeah, Impa assassinated the stream because we were spoiling her plans.
God damn it, Impa.
It's something she would do. It looks like people can hear us though, so hopefully we'll last longer than 20 minutes. See, last week wasn't it like 15 minutes before it died, and then we went an hour and a half before it died, and then we restarted it at the hour and a half point.
Third time is the charm, I guess.
It was the third time last week. I guess it'll be the third time this week too. Alrighty. So, alright, looks like everyone can hear us.
Where the hell was I?
Yeah. My apologies for restarting the stream, everyone, but here we are again. Anyway, where the heck were we? Were talking about the last thing I remember you talking about was the Yiga in Nintendo canon. And at least I think you were talking about them in Nintendo canon.
Yeah, and how thematically they tie pretty well to Hyrule Conquest and Nephystream canon. Yeah, because as I was saying, trying to just organize my thoughts. Yeah, the Yiga are essentially, a bunch of disgruntled Sheikah in Nintendo canon, and it kind of ties well because ultimately they were pretty much fed up that the sort of higher purpose that they were serving didn't actually benefit them at all in the end, right? So they looked for an alternative, and that's pretty much what the Yiga are and why they're doing what they're doing in Breath of the Wild, because that's the alternative. They were fed up.
Maybe they should have just looked at themselves and realized they were a bunch of buffoons that liked bananas. Yeah, exactly. That's probably why they failed.
There's that part.
They failed because of Nintendo's wacky writing. If only they knew. If only they became Vivek and they became self-aware, they'd rebel against Nintendo.
Yeah, but going back to this to Nephi canon is what that is the problem with the Sheikah and the cadre as a whole. It needs to be united.
It looks like we're already getting streaming errors again.
In order for
we didn't even last a few minutes. I'm really not sure what to do about this. This is getting ridiculous.
I don't think it's your connection either, because I can hear you fine usually when it's.
Yeah, I don't think it's my connection, because you and I are talking just fine over. I think it's YouTube.
Actually cursed.
I might just wait 15 minutes. Let's see if the chat can you guys still hear us in the chat, or is it dead again? I don't know. People seem to still. Again, we might be a full like 2 minutes ahead of them, so it won't
Yeah.
know for. We won't know for a little bit. So yeah, someone's recommending I go to Twitch. Maybe I will go to Twitch because I think YouTube is the problem. I don't think it's my internet connection, and I don't think it's OBS. I think YouTube is the problem because OBS has like it has green connection. I have green connection on Discord. I think it's YouTube.
Yeah.
So I don't know. People
But it
say they
looks
can
like
still hear us, so
Yeah.
maybe it's fine. Maybe YouTube's just being. It's just YouTube to letting me. Anyway, okay. So I already forgot. Okay, we're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. How for the Sheikas, for their sort of higher goal to be realizable, they need to be right.
They need to
Like
what?
they need to be united in that purpose. Once there's
Yeah.
a sort of ideological schism, it all falls apart completely. And like you said, that sort of schism is inevitable due to the way they are operating, the sort of methods they're employing in that purpose, which is obviously sort of a dilemma. But yeah, that's the
I mean,
reality
they
of
chose
it.
that
And I think-
path.
yeah, and I do think Impa realized that at some point, but she kind of wanted to try her own sort of way of it. And you could argue if it works or not. Obviously, and that will be an interesting discussion later on when we get to that point in the story.
Yeah.
That
I guess spoiler. She eventually gets caught.
Yeah, I mean.
Someone said YouTube's copywriting my stream. I don't know how. I don't have any music playing. The image I have of Saria is my own design and model. It's not like footage from a game, and I don't think anyone has a copyright on Deox's ladder, so I don't know why YouTube would be copywriting the stream.
It's the Vatican.
I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, I guess I wouldn't be surprised. YouTube copyrights all kinds of weird things.
The Vatican copyright striked my
The
lad.
Vatican. The Gnostics are coming.
Damn Gnostic propaganda! Take it down.
They want their they're coming for another crusade against them. That's funny. Anyway,
yeah. I think we're fine now.
Yeah, the connection seems stable now. I don't know why YouTube was complaining to me again. So yeah, just a heads up, everyone. If in another 20 minutes to an hour the stream dies, we'll do part 3. we'll pause it for 15 minutes and do part 3.
Since we're talking about Impa and some kind of spoilery things, and
I'd love to talk about Impa and spoilery things.
There is one like a recurring question I keep saying. It's not really a question, but it's phrased as sort of a criticism in a way. And the answer to that question is sort of spoilery, but I'd like to
go on. We're in full blown spoiler territory here, so go on.
For the sake of clarity, I think I'll answer it. And that question I see keep popping up is, why is it that the Zelda Dynasty only had daughters, and specifically one daughter?
Now, yeah.
I'll just say 2 + 2 is 4. Okay, so that's your answer, guys. For everyone that has been wondering why that's a thing, there's a reason Nylin had a brother, right?
Yeah, she had a brother.
Yeah, she had a brother, but after her, there were no siblings, and there is a reason for that. It's not just blah 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 fate and bullshit. There is an actual reason to it, and
I'll throw in some more eyebrow raisers. You know how the Sheikah had the rule against Sheikah blood mingling with the royal family, and so Aghanim did something illegal. Yet, why did Impa not prevent him from mingling before finally killing him?
And why didn't she kill the offspring?
She should have known that. Oh, she would have known he's a Sheikah before he even married.
Oh yeah.
Before he even maybe Impa wanted some Sheikah blood in the royal family, and she executed him when he was no longer useful.
I mean, here's the thing.
I love Impa.
Get some of that good Akalan blood in there. just to get some of that, blood of the
She
gods.
probably
That
realized if we're gonna keep having the daughters, we're still gonna need to get some. We're gonna need to get us. Yeah, yeah.
it's almost like the Sheik are sort of creating their own something.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, it's
So
almost like Impa. Impa has an long-term plan.
yeah, Empa's one of the. Again, I hesitate to call her a villain though.
She's
But
not. She's not a villain. I think that would be kind of discrediting her as a character. She's not a villain.
I'm
Uh,
really looking for like there's so many things that I'm going
I
to
guess.
animate that I really can't wait to animating. And one of the parts that I'm really looking forward to is when Tetra realizes she's been used and kind of betrayed by Impa. That's gonna kill me to make.
Oh yeah.
She realizes, oh, the most trusted person in my life. I'm just a pawn to them, basically. That's gonna
I would say there is some
that's
sort
gonna be
of.
a scene. That's gonna be quite a scene.
I wouldn't say it's wrong to say there's a little kind of eugenics project going on. You know what I mean? It's like, we mix some of that, and we can get closer to that sort of thing we want to
I mean
cook up.
that's kind of been the story of real world royalty for for a long time, to the point where it backfired on a lot of them because they all became inbred, which is how the Sheikah basically finally die. They're all inbred.
Yeah, and here's the thing: if you go back and look at the genealogy, you know that now you guys know in from cinematics recently that the highest bloodline did continue through the royal family
I'm sorry.
without her knowing.
I'm sorry. Someone asked a question I have to answer. Just for
Okay.
people that are coming, and the Q&A is for the end, so I'm probably not going to answer questions until we're done. But so someone asked, "Is Lear Eggs Tomoko possible?" It is, but not in the way you probably think.
You don't want to think about it. Okay.
I had to answer that because it made me chuckle. But anyway,
Yeah.
back on topic.
Now, I was just gonna say, like, if continuing on for that sort of kind of eugenics pet project, as everyone learned in the recent cinematics that Hylia's bloodline, without her knowing it, did continue through the royal family.
Yeah.
Directly. Like, if you go through the genealogy, it's very elaborate. That why that is still a thing, and that is not a coincidence. Like, that makes sense. That is not a coincidence because the chance of that direct bloodline dying out is pretty large if you take into consideration everything that can happen.
And that's
But it
why I say
didn't.
the Sheikah are not exactly under the principle of Hylia.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though it
There's like
seems like they're inadvertently preserving her in some way.
I'm actually obviously people are not going to understand without context, but you can answer me yes or no because I don't think I've asked you this. We didn't talk about it, and people are not. It's very spoilery, but no one is going to understand the
We're in
context.
full spoilers here, so go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm just going to ask you for my own benefit because I don't think we discussed this. Would you say, following up on this eugenics idea and building up a sort of figure, would you say they're trying to build an oracle?
Not intentionally. Well,
That's sort of kind of.
uh, ooh,
Ooh, that's a spicy one.
I want to say no, not, but no, I don't think they are. But I know why you're thinking that because that's kind of what
Yeah,
they get with Tetra. Um, but I want to say no. They could not account for how Tetra turned out. Which
no,
Tetra is how Impa comes to her end too.
yeah,
So I want to say no. The Oracle is the margin that manifested because they thought they could account for everything through bloodlines.
okay, so taking this question even further, so if Hylia is a brass tower, right? In the sense that,
Yeah, she
in a
kind of
sense,
is.
in a sense, right?
Yes.
Would you say that they're trying to build another brass tower?
Oh yes, actually yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
That's why I said
yeah.
Tetra and the way she came about. She basically. I want to get into real world symbolism then, because this is all tied
Yeah.
with like the freaking horror of Babylon and everything. But okay, there's this idea, and I know I'm already gonna lose people when I talk about things like the. I'm gonna lose people when I talk about things like the mark of the beast and
Oh,
all that. But this is all connected to the symbolism of that. Basically,
I
there's
just
this
want to clarify quick,
or
Neff,
the
because people probably don't know what I'm talking. When we say brass tower, a brass tower is an artificial idol or an
yes,
artificial deity. That is what that means
a
symbolically.
real world analog would be the Tower of Babel.
Yeah.
But that same pattern is also in the whole notion of the mark of the beast. And basically, the idea is humans try to create a perfect system that they believe can account for everything and control everything, which is impossible. And when you create a system that can account for everything and monitor everything and control everything, it by its nature becomes like a horror. It invades everyone's privacy. It tries to control everything on the margin, and it basically assimilates things that it shouldn't assimilate. And by doing that, it becomes infected and it falls apart because it can't actually account for everything.
No.
So humans are constantly doing this. We're always trying to create some kind of system or idol or something that we can put above ourselves and run everything and control everything, but that's
I
not
think
possible. And that is
another.
that is what the Sheikah are technically doing by trying to control the bloodlines and create like this perfect dynasty that will without error rule Hyrule and whatever. And through the arrogance and their belief that they can account for everything through the bloodlines, something slips through the cracks, and that's Hylia's blood. And then they get Tetra, who ends up undoing everything the Sheikah's trying to do. I love it. I love it.
Symbolically and in mythology, when humanity builds a brass tower, it always goes to hell. And if you guys want more of a relatable, without having all the religion stuff in it, look at the Dwemer and the Elder Scrolls. That's what they did. They built the brass tower, and look how it turned up.
I mean, yeah, if you want to remove all of the religious context to it, just look at a lot of the societies that tried to form all the like the really secular societies in Asia that tried to form in the 20th century, or like the Soviet Union. Like they thought they could create a perfect state that monitored and controlled everything, and they all imploded. I
Yeah.
mean, even right now we see freaking China imploding. They're trying to institute the whole social credit system. They're trying to create a system that can account for everything, and they're already imploding. Like you can't do it. I'm sorry, people. You can't create a system that controls and monitors everything. There will always be a margin that inevitably or eventually an aspect of that margin will become part of the system and it'll infect it. And even listen to the terms I'm using. I'm using viral terms. Look at what's happening right now. Symbolism
Also,
happens.
also as someone wrote, a brass tower, while it is an idol, it's also not an idol. And the reason for that is because when humanity builds a brass tower, they are confident that it's something of their own making, and that's what makes it different. An
Yeah, it
idol
is.
can,
It is technically an idol, but it's almost like they're in denial of it.
yeah, like an idol is more, but also an idol kind of embodies the concept of a higher entity outside of humanity, right? It's something humanity discovers, and they start to revere it
the
and
the,
or
the
worship
the
it.
thing is that is what humans are doing.
Yeah,
They in their ego they think they're actually creating it, but they're not. They're borrowing principles and combining them to create something they think is new, but it's not. It's the same thing every time.
yeah.
It's the same thing every time.
And I'm pretty sure that the Akalans or the people responsible for Hylia's ascension were very aware of what they were making. However, how much of that was actually, you know, under their control, that is questionable. Without going into more of that, but the thing is, that was ego incarnate. That entire project, that entire idea of creating Hylia that is very very deliberately creating the brass tower. The
Yeah.
idea of that.
It is kind of ironic that a component of that brass tower ended up destroying the Sheikah's brass. Two brass towers destroyed each other.
But that's ultimately the fate of most brass towers, is that one is built, another is built, and they all just end up destroying each other.
Yeah.
And brass towers just are usually built at the peak of arrogance in civilizations.
Yeah.
That's usually the recurring theme of that.
There's always one around. Just sometimes they don't get to like they don't manifest in like a cosmic sort of way. Like say a one world government is probably the
Yeah.
an extreme version that we can imagine now. Like someone who has the arrogance of, oh, we could monitor everything in the world and assimilate everyone and keep everyone like. And the thing is, you can go beyond that too. Like, if say humans become interstellar, there's always there's always a margin. You can't
Actually,
account for everything.
There's a very good real world example from science fiction, a Matryoshka brain. That is a breath.
I'm not familiar with that.
That's a supercomputer fueled by a star or a black. That it has basically infinite computing power, essentially creating a sort of deity figure that can calculate every single thing. You should look it up. It's very interesting. It's not always conveyed as a brass tower, but in a lot of fiction, it's used that it's basically humanity building God.
Yeah, that's that's basically what's behind the idea of a brass tower. It's humans trying to create their own god that they can control.
Yeah.
Which is funny because every brass tower project they end up voluntarily putting that above them to control them. It's almost morbidly funny, like because there's so much like willing ignorance and like denial behind all of the projects. It's hilarious.
Yeah. You should definitely look up the mega structure Matryoshka brain, because that's very interesting, because that is essentially the science fiction equivalent of a brass tower.
I mean, there was I think the movie was called Colossus. There's a movie, I think it was in the 70s, that was the same premise where the United States and the Soviets, they both build these hyper intelligent supercomputers that they want to use to stop all wars, to like predict wars before they happen. So, but both the United States and the Soviets, they build it at the same time, and the two computers start communicating with each other, and they basically enslave the whole. They take humanity hostage and threaten to nuke them if they don't serve them. It's a really good movie.
I would say Hylia is a very good like fantasy equivalent of Metro.
What is?
Hylia is a very good like phantom of that, or the Numidia in Elder Scrolls. That's a very good like fantasy and equivalent.
The interesting thing about Hylia, though, which I'm not sure if I want to go into too much detail because I'm not even sure I entirely understand it yet, is she kind of is redeemed in a way.
Yeah.
Because she topples herself over. So she's I actually wouldn't. I would say they try to create a brass tower with her, but she ends up not actually being one. Which I actually would say she's kind of like the reappropriated story of the Romance of Alexander. I don't know if you're familiar with the Romance of Alexander.
Yeah.
Basically, for the people in the audience, the Romance of Alexander is it's this myth of Alexander where he gets on a chariot that's being flown around by these two beasts that are probably griffins. And he has like these sticks in his hand of meat, and he's leading the beasts around, and they keep taking up higher and higher in the sky. And eventually he sees all of the earth, and he sees the snakes on the borders, and he keeps going up higher and higher into the heavens indefinitely. But after Rome was basically conquered by Christianity, the story changed a little bit. And the story starts out the same way. The griffins are replaced with cherubim, and he's leading them around. He's going higher and higher in the heavens, and eventually he gets to a point where he looks up and he sees a hand. That's basically a hand in like the motion of stop, and he stops going higher, and he just stays at a certain level, and he ceases to destroy himself by going too high. It's basically a different version of the Icarus story.
Even more interesting in science fiction with the Matryoshka brain is that one of its possible uses that it's been proposed, even not outside of science fiction, but in futuristic or in futurism, is that with that much computing power, you can essentially recreate reality in virtual space and upload every single thing or every single consciousness to that sort of virtual reality. Essentially, creating something entirely new with that super mega structure as the highest point of that reality's hierarchy, right?
Then
That,
everything in there becomes enslaved to it.
yes, exactly.
Yeah. You can't escape being under a principle. You can't. It's funny, like, because yeah, the creation of virtual reality, that I can see that as a way to escape, like, being under some kind of higher authority. But if you do that, you're under the authority of the virtual reality. Like, there's no getting around it.
Yeah, it's
And it's even worse. It's a principle you supposedly created that's probably flawed in some way.
honestly, it kind of reminds me of the philosopher Kierkegaard on how you're supposed to submit yourself to a higher entity. To the, it's very similar to that. That true. At some point, you have to kind of take a leap of faith and submit yourself to a higher principle.
Even if it's something as simple as just like hunger or greed, those are, they're not, I wouldn't consider, most people would not consider like greed a good principle, but it is still technically a higher principle because it can control you
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
can follow it and embody it. So yeah, even like there's no avoiding it. It's like, I can't remember if it was you or someone else because I haven't played Dark Souls, but there was, I think it was Dark Souls, where humans are like this sludge that is kind of inanimate and doesn't do anything until there's other beings that kind of like guide them in certain directions. Was that you? And was that Dark Souls, or am I thinking of something
probably,
else?
probably not, because I am not familiar with Dark Souls.
Oh, God. You're familiar with Dark Souls?
Well, I am familiar with it, but I'm not well versed in its lore.
Oh,
I have a surface level of
I
understanding,
I
but I
thought you were really into Dark Souls. Who the hell
no.
am I thinking of?
Uh,
You're joking with me. You're familiar.
yeah, I am familiar with it. I think it might have been Vanker, honestly, because
Maybe.
he's more familiar with
I
Dark
could have
Souls lore than I
swore like, okay, my brain hurts now. So
am.
someone was telling me, someone in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong. Basically, in Dark Souls, humans are like in their natural state. They're like some kind of like liquid, chaotic mush that just kind of sits there inert. And then one of the old gods comes along, or the dragons or whatever. I don't think it's the dragons. I think it's, I can't. I think they're called the old gods or something. I haven't played Dark Souls, so again, correct me if I'm wrong. But they come along, and then humans start to take shape, and they start to emulate and reflect whatever deity they're following. Okay, someone's saying Dark Souls humanity is quite different from that. So I have no idea what the hell game I'm thinking of. There's some game where humans in their natural state are like sludge, and then like these god figures like come along, and the sludge starts to slowly transform into like little copies of whatever they're following. So I don't know what the hell I'm thinking of. I thought it was Dark Souls, and I thought it was you, Deox, that told me that, but I guess it was neither.
Yeah, I mean, that's there's a similar idea in the Elder Scrolls when before form, there was only the spirits. I'm not even the Ethnophae or whatever they're called. I can never pronounce their name properly, but basically just spirits. That's what they were.
There's pure
And
abstract. Yay.
yeah, pure abstract. And as ideas represented by deities started to meddle in the world. In Mundus, that eventually became reality, those spirits eventually took form based on whatever idea they attached themselves to. Some became men, some became mer, stuff like that.
Yeah. And it's
In the other,
just, it's because like,
I think the Elder Scrolls takes that idea even further because I've seen people always ask, lore masters in the Elder Scrolls community, like, why doesn't geography make sense? And I'm like, because everything in that world is shaped by ideas.
yeah.
Skyrim is called. Skyrim is called not because of geography; it's because of mentalities. That's why it's the way it is. Everything in that world is shaped by ideas
I miss
and
Kirkbride.
yeah, it's like that's why there's like the geography doesn't make any sense, because even that area is completely shaped by its inhabitants and the ideas that inhabit those inhabitants. That's why nothing there, like the geography makes no sense, because everything in that world, yeah, is shaped by ideas.
I mean, I guess I would argue that's the case with reality too, but
Yeah, but that's why, like, you can't really compare Mundus and the Elder Scrolls with Earth, because that doesn't make sense, because they're so differently.
well, even
But
like say humans did not have a word for mountain, would mountains be on Earth?
yeah,
I would argue they are in the abstract, but we would not see mountains on Earth if we had no word for mountain.
yeah.
And I'm gonna come down from the heavens into material land for